Don't you worry about cholesterol, lung cancer, love handles?
I don't worry about anything anymore.
What makes you so special? Everybody worries about something.
Well, that's exactly what makes me so special. I don't even have to floss.
Oh.
What do you want?
Well, good morning, everybody. It's Mitch, and out here enjoying the morning sun, and wanted to record a brief introduction to this video, which, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most important things that we have to discuss to figure out how to make our new lifestyle sustainable, and why we've always failed in the past. I don't think there's one of you out there that hasn't lost weight and regained it. Maybe 10, 15 times. I know I have. And the reason for that is something that has puzzled me all my life. And finally, finding what I think is the answer is why I'm here. I'm talking about addiction. Addiction comes in many forms, and we've talked about that before. You have drug addiction, alcohol addiction, nicotine addiction, and probably the most prevalent form of addiction that people don't even think of in the same terms is food or carbohydrate addiction. So nobody takes that seriously. If you ask the average person, are you a food addict? No. Why would you say that? You ask an alcoholic who hasn't come to terms yet with his addiction, don't you think you're an alcoholic? And their answer is always, I'm not an alcoholic. I can stop any time I want. I have willpower. And why don't you stop? I don't want to. Same thing with food addicts. Aren't you addicted to food? Addicted to food? No. If I wanted to lose weight, I could do it anytime I wanted to. Now, you and I we know that's bullshit. We know that everybody wants to lose weight. Everybody wants to get healthier, and they want to feel better. And primarily, I think they want to look better, because that seems to be where our priorities are. So what we're going to address here in the next few minutes is coming to terms with the fact that you are a food addict. And we're going to take a little test that I wrote to see if we don't qualify as a food addict. And then we're going to come to terms with the importance, like any other addiction, of getting up in front of a room full of people in a mystical place called Carbaholics Anonymous and saying, hi, I'm Mitch, and I'm a carbaholic.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
So, can we handle the truth? In the 50 years that I spent on low-carb diets of different kinds, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, trying to figure out, why can't I just lose weight and be done with it? I thought of everything. But the concept of food being an addiction, like alcoholism, smoking, drug addiction, not only wasn't it talked about, but it made no sense to me. I mean, we can live without alcohol, we can live without drugs, we can live without cigarettes, but how can food be an addiction? We can't live without food. And that little bit of logic is what has kept probably what is the strongest addiction that humans can have from being recognized as an addiction, instead recognized as weakness, laziness, no willpower, but not an addiction. So I finally admitted it to myself not too long ago that the reason that for 50 years I never succeeded, that I was never able to maintain the weight that I had lost, hard-fought weight, for more than a couple months, was that I indeed was an addict, and I came to terms with that. Now, an alcoholic will never go into a treatment program or never join AA until he himself is convinced he has a problem. That applies even more so to food addicts, because in our environment today, resisting the temptation of everything thrown at you is 100 times harder than an alcoholic who isn't faced with pictures and advertisements and offerings of alcohol every 2 minutes in every direction they turn. But carb addiction, nonetheless, is an addiction. Without facing that and treating that and recognizing it for what it is, you can diet from now till the cows come home. You will fail. You will succumb. You will gain it back. And in a year from now, you'll be saying, what did I do wrong? Why did I fail? I know that you'll do that because that was my life for over 50 years. So in order to convince yourself that you're a carb addict, I kind of took what I had seen in all the other people's tests about how do you know that you're a carb addict, and I put it together in a little test of my own. And here it is. This is Mitch's Am I a Carb Addict test. Okay, so each one of these questions is either going to have a yes or a no answer, and it can't be anywhere in between. If it's a little bit yes, it's a yes. If it's a, nah, that's not me, it's a no. So ask these questions to yourself. Add up the yeses and nos, and let's see how it works out. Okay? You are probably a carb food addict if you don't want to give up the pleasure you get from food. You don't want to give up food as an activity or a source of entertainment. Food and cooking are your hobbies. You search for non-fattening versions of the foods you're addicted to. You have lost weight and regained it numerous times. Being on a diet is torture for you. You hate exercise. You know what you shouldn't eat, but you eat it anyway. You eat even when you're not hungry for emotional reasons. What is the reason for living if you have to give up all of those foods that you love? You watch cooking shows on TV. And last but not least, you are unhappy with your health and your appearance. All right, think about this for a minute. Honestly. Think about your answers to those questions, and I'll show you how, in my opinion, based on how I was for 50 years, how I would have scored this test. If you answered 0 yeses, you are not a carb addict, or not anymore. You have achieved food freedom. If you answered 1 to 2 answers yes, you're a mild food addict. If you answered 3 to 5 questions, yes, I think you're a severe food addict. And if you answered over 6 questions, yes, you, my friend, are a food slave, which is 100% the opposite of food freedom. Is carb addiction a real thing? You bet your life it is. And that's what you're betting. You're betting your life. How do you overcome it? Well, I did. So the question is, Mitch, how did you overcome carb addiction after 50 years of failing? And that one answer is one of the things I think from my own personal experience I have to offer, because it definitely worked. It's not just a theory of mine anymore. I recorded a video about the first 30 days of a carnivore diet. How do you start a carnivore diet? And there were some points in that video that were not negotiable. If you didn't follow those points, your odds of failing to start this thing were astronomical. And most people do fail on carnivore, keto, or whatever diet they try because they aren't addressing food addiction. The main points in that video, if you don't feel like watching it again, which might not be a bad idea, are number one, you have one thing to think about during the first 30 days of starting this diet, and that is to eat. You've been told what you can eat, but your job, your single sole focus and purpose is to eat. Eat until you can't even think about food. Never allow yourself to get hungry. That's the first job you have. In order to make that easier on you, you need to clean your environment out and get rid and keep everything that triggers you out of reach, out of sight, and out of mind. That's difficult if you're living with other people. Do the best you can. But that will derail you much more easily. You need to stop doing that. You need to not try to replace the foods you eat with versions of addictive foods like carnivore pizza or carnivore bread or whatever. Eat meat that looks like meat, tastes like meat, and is meat. Pizza is a thing of the past for you. And get comfortable with that thought, because in a not too long a period of time, you won't even think about it or want it anymore. So why think about ways to make it to trigger your cravings and ruin your efforts when you won't want it anymore anyway if you allow your body to transition biochemically from a sugar metabolizer to a fat metabolizer. And finally, throw away the scale. Weighing yourself will only lead to disappointment, and you'll derail yourself. You don't realize it, but those 4 steps are some of the most important things in addiction management, because that's what we're doing here. We are gone on a mental food detox program by eating and concentrating on nothing but eating, not exercise, not fasting, eating. We're not going to get hungry. We won't allow ourselves to get hungry. That's the greatest defense against emotional eating, is just be turned off to food completely. So stuff yourself. getting on the scale, that's only going to lead to disappointment, because who knows what your body's going to do in the first 30 days, and you're not even interested or care about how much weight you gained or lost, because you're going to bounce up and down, and it's all going to be water anyway as the sugar flushes out of your body. So these things are important, but not just as a physical thing to do, but as an emotional management tool to minimize the effects of your addiction until it goes away, and it will go away. I'm going to keep talking about this. I'm going to talk about it more in future videos. The biggest problem that everybody has on dieting, and I don't care if it's Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or keto or paleo or whatever diet it is, it's the same thing that sabotages it and causes you to gain all the weight back that you fought so hard for and lost. You're still an addict, and you always will be one, just like an alcoholic. You can eliminate the cravings, but you're still addicted. And that means this isn't what people want to hear. People want to hear there's a magic pill that just makes the weight disappear and I can go on living a food-centric life. Doesn't work that way. You have to come to terms with the fact that your life is changing and your whole manner of eating is going to change, like mine did. The good news, the great news is you'll actually enjoy the great health, the changes in your physical appearance, the freedom from food. You'll enjoy that so much more than you ever enjoyed your food-centric life. Always searching for that next fix, that next endless variety of excitement that we all now find in food. And you'll start to appreciate that there's a lot of things in life, once you stop focusing on food, that do give you joy and happiness. And what better way to enjoy all that new happiness than being completely healthy, thin, calm, and at peace. So with that, we'll end this here. I will give you the rest of the day off. Eat meat.